Ooh, Teresa, this is a different beginning to your videos. Where's the removal of a doll's face? So I think, as you can see or guess by the ball and the white material, which is clay, you can kind of guess what I'm doing. I'm making something out of clay, but I'm making a head out of clay. This is the strangest and most surprising repaint I've ever done, because I didn't know I could make things out of clay, so that is a very nice thing to find out. So basically I used it has a centre of foil, so because it's lighter, so the head isn't too heavy, and then I don't know if you can guess from now, but that's a beak. What I'm trying to do is make Tokoyami from Boku no Hero Academia, because he is a beautiful boy and he is a really great character, and also one that's reasonably easy to make because he's so stylized. So this is the character I'm making for an Instagram collaboration thing. So my first choice was Todoroki, but realistically I think this is probably the better choice for me and what I can do right now. I don't think I could do the beautiful half and half boy justice at the moment. Look into different methods of doll making, because this is kind of like much more of an OOAK doll. I don't actually know what that stands for. Own or collision. Collision doesn't even begin with K. Anyway. As you can see, I'm kind of fiddling around. At this point I didn't have any concept of how I was actually going to do this, so I got some more clay and then I was kind of just getting into it, because I looked at my sketch, because I did a sketch from the front and the side, and I was just like, if I get into the kind of side, maybe the rest of it will start making more sense. So to make the kind of spiky, coney part of his head, what I did was made a noodle, so of the same shape, kind of size, so that I have the same kind of starting point for the points. And then, I was just sticking them on. I had really no idea what I was doing at this point. I was just experimenting. It looks like a clown with weird hair at that point. I didn't really think about it in the 3D. I think if I'd used some like kind of 3D concept, then that would have been a good idea. I didn't really think about how it would translate. I would definitely recommend a bit more planning. For this one I decided, let's just go get the main head shape with this big ol' spiky boy, and from there it was much smoother sailing, just getting the basic shape and then getting, the outwards spiky, kind of more hair-like parts of his feathery head, I guess. So enjoy speeding through the rest of this process, because it took me quite a while, and I'm glad I enjoyed it, but it did take quite a while. So with the main head shape and concept kind of cemented, I went into the detail work. So as you can see, I tried kind of sculpting an eye to begin with, just like smoothing it through. I was just like, that's really just committing too much for me. The likelihood of me getting those eyes symmetrical on the first try or on the 1000th try was very unlikely. I'd always be annoyed at it. Thinking of it now, I probably should have made a stamp and translated it. And then when that was done, I just went ahead and started chipping out the done clay. Now, I think I have realised that this is a concept that actually a lot of people that work with clay do, but I had no idea about it. I think I was just trying to kind of smooth out, to begin with, a really kind of bumpy area, so like under that head part you can kind of see the shadows quite extreme there. But once that had been done a few times, I realised that I really liked what it was looking like. Rather than it just being a smooth head, kind of like a vinyl kind of, you know, anime figurine, you know, these little chips, if done correctly, could look like kind of texture, because this is feathers. And realistically, do you think he has one fat cone-shaped feather coming out of his head? No, that's loads of tiny feathers. So I think I artsed it away. I kind of using little flaws, using just like these little human inaccuracies to create art, and you know, a bit more artsy fartsy, a bit more handmade, and I think a bit more cute. With my bird boy suitably smoothed and feathered, I kind of showed him off. You know, use the shadows to show off all the little dents and divots and texture that I've given him. And then I kind of moved on to the beak. So I don't know why I didn't think of just doing it whilst the clay was malleable. Sorry for the hair, that's gonna appear again. But I tried to get the beak's kind of separation just through some thin lines. Now, as you'll soon see, this did come with some issues, but I think it's much better to have done it then, because you can always kind of add a bit more. This clay is very soft, it's so good for carving away at, though I would say I probably should have done it in pencil first, kind of let the curves be more planned out, because they kind of ended up a bit more down and up than I originally planned it to be. So I spent quite a lot of time digging away and flattening out until it was perfect. And it didn't end up perfect, but definitely passable, definitely cute. With that done, the only features left were the eyes. So this turned out quite well. I spent a lot of time drawing the eyes, planning out what kind of a look, kind of emotion I wanted. I was kind of going for a strong but not like aggressive. I kind of made the pupils a bit bigger than they are in the anime, because it's kind of a more chibi version, so I thought him having kind of tiny pupils would just be a bit off. And if you haven't noticed yet, you've just seen one of the problems that we'll get to. I mean, you also get a bit of time looking at my scalp and me picking some little nose holes, but we're getting into stage 2 of this repaint realistically, in that I really, really, really needed to remold that beak. It is so lopsided. I also spent, yeah, this is the real struggle of me trying to cut the mouth so that it wasn't going like too up and too down, or kind of making it the same on either side when it's so lopsided. Like, the center is not at the center, it's completely to the left. So I decided to just add some more clay on. Now, I'm not sure whether this is a good thing. I'm not sure if this is a recommended thing for doll artists or just people that work with clay, but I think I've seen some people do it when they're making molds for their kind of real doll stuff for OOK dolls, OOAK dolls. So I figured it would be fine, and I can't tell the difference. I really worked hard at smoothing it in, and yes, that's makeup on my hand. I went to Boots and tried some on. So I've just got more scalp and an incredibly glistening hand. With the head done, we get into the real stuff, making the character look like the character is. So I mixed this really pale orangey pink. I was originally kind of planning on a more yellowy, orangey colour, but you know, when you're mixing paint and a lot of water, as you can see, I think I used 2-3 layers. I kind of cooked it so I could do it over a short amount of time, and then, you know, you can just go right in with the most dangerous colour in the world, big ol' strong black. I watered this down, so I got a little splidge of water on my palette and then kind of slowly mixed the black paint in until it wasn't opaque and hopefully could be recovered if it goes badly. Just to showing you how translucent it is, because I think that's really important, that black is such a strong colour that you have to do it in lighter layers. And also I think that's a big mistake for doll artists generally. Like, if you can't go straight with acrylic paint, even white, even though it's very tempting, because it's gonna create some texture. Like, on such a tiny scale, just any thick paint is going to be a bit too much. This was really just finishing up the repaint. I used some black, like it was a second layer of black I did after this, and I used just watercolours to get the eye shape perfect, and then I did the final black layer last, so that kind of perfected the lines around the eyes. You don't want to go over, because it's really hard to layer white on top of any colour, let alone black, and I'm just kind of giving a bit more dimension, you know, giving some shadowing to the beak. Now on to clothes. So I didn't follow any kind of outfit specifically because he generally has a superhero outfit that's just a cape. So I made a cape and just a little dark outfit underneath. These tiny jeans are in fact made of material from my normal jeans that gained a hole in the crotch. So they were a pair of, I think, just £10 jeggings from Miss Selfridge's, and I wanted to make little dark black jeans, so this is actually what was the inside, but I did it the wrong way around. So what I'm doing here is just using seam stopper or fray stopper on the seams to stop them from, you know, just trying to escape. I got a t-shirt. All of these pieces, apart from the cape, were just flat pack, you know, just cutting and just leaving. I didn't do any edges and proper seams. So as you can see, it's just a tiny outfit and then you flip it the other way around. And that is mainly because I only use stretchy material, stretchy jeggings, and this little costume shop material I got from a costume shop offcuts, a huge box. So yep, that's the doll. We got a new doll body too. So this is the main item. This is the cape. So I originally planned on having it this shape, but I realised it didn't have the volume and shape I wanted. It didn't cross over at all. So what I did is I cut this in half, about there, and added a triangular shape in between. So kind of to add a back panel and a way for it to kind of cross over and make the shape that I intended. So there you go, there's the snip snip snip, and in between now and then it'll have another panel in the back. So don't make it how I made it, make it better. Look for some how to make real capes and not just me trying and semi-failing. This was kind of the final step. I did this in just one day, the tiny boots. I wasn't sure, I knew I wanted to do them papier-mâché, but I had no plans or techniques or real concepts of how to do this. So I made some little tiny soles so the foot would be flat, blue tacked them on, and then used seam stopper as glue, because there was no PVA glue in the house apart from Pritt stick, and I imagined that wouldn't work. I was very surprised that this worked at all, but basically I'm just papier-mâchéing a tiny little foot into a much larger boot. I was very lucky that the art style of Boku no Hero Academia fits this oversized boot. So that's what they look like, little tiny casts for the feet, and then I've got a front and two back panels. I kind of went oversized and stuck them on, so I kind of snipped at the bottom. I actually should have done a bit bigger on the back because they didn't exactly reach, but you know, you live and you learn. When I make some tiny shoes again, I'll be able to make them better, and hopefully because of me, you can make them perfect the first time, which is always nice when you don't have to fail to begin with. So as you can see, some extra little white bits were left over. I tried with chalk pastels, but you know, that wasn't doing much, so I just went in with straight acrylic. It wasn't going to matter, it was the back of the boot anyway, I'm just filling up some space. So I just went straight acrylic from this little tiny tube that I got off eBay, and there we go. Attaching all the bits together. I added a button. I didn't videotape that, I realise. and that's what he looks like. The final step is adding the confusing neck wrap that the bird boy has to separate his human and bird half. So the way that I added this on is I just got my dad to drill a hole in his head at the base so that it could fit. It's very snug. The thing is, tip for drilling, you always want it to be a bit too small, because you can always drill more. You'd have to get clay to fill his head in if you were going to do the opposite. So I just kind of wound around and around until it was a good thickness, because the thing is, it had to go kind of thinner at the base of the head to thicker at the bottom. But also I have to be careful to keep the head, because it's got like head maneuverability, loads of poses and stuff, and I paid quite a lot to have the doll, and I'd rather keep its maneuverability. So this is him. He is watching over his city of birds from a dramatic birdhouse, watching over his subjects of 3 guinea fowl, running around having fun. I'm very happy with how he turned out. And as you can see, I've got a little bit white bit. I use that, it's 2 pieces of Velcro, so that he can close up and have a good shape on his cape. I hope everyone enjoyed this, and might try using clay for a head, and it was fun. Thank you for coming again, guys.